Hey all, it's David Ducker and Josh Pullman coming back at you. Today we're going to be talking about table etiquette. This is something Josh wanted to do. I don't know anything about etiquette, as I'm sure all of you know. So Josh, why don't you tell us what is table etiquette?
Table etiquette is simply how you behave yourself at the table when the DM is speaking, with other players. It's sort of this meta thing. It's basically basic human decency as applies to, as Dave put it, as applies to tabletop games. Not such an issue, I suppose, if you're doing it online. But, I've encountered all sorts while playing over the years. And a lot of people just let it go because they don't want to mention it. They don't want to bring it up. But you really need to point it out and tell the person, stop that. That's not okay.
No.
One example of that is years and years and years and years ago. Great campaign, great group. Everyone was pretty okay. We had a moocher. All right. And what I mean by moocher is that everyone would take turns bringing stuff in, every time. And for a long time, he didn't have a job. And, we're fine with that, It's, money comes and goes, so does employment. If you don't have a job, I can understand it. We can take care of you. I know I've spotted people money some days because they simply don't have it, right? And there's a measure of trust there, right? Well, the moocher ends up getting a job, and he goes on about how great it is, how much money he's making. Still never actually contributes to anything at all, and is still bumming bus tickets off me to actually get from A to B. And yet he keeps talking about how great his job is, right, and how much money he's making. So it's that sort of thing, right? Just as a tabletop game is a group, it's a team effort. So is sort of playing at the tabletop a group enterprise. And I've been fortunate in the last few years because everyone has been so willing to contribute to snacks, to costs, to bring in their books, figurines, whatever, and really kind of make the best of it. And I've been fortunate that way. And that's not always the case. Sometimes there's a reason for it, sometimes not. Now, past mooching, you have, say, certain loud people. Certainly Dave is exceptionally loud. So is Aaron.
I know you've had to tell me to shut up when you were the GM. Maybe even when Aaron was the GM.
Basically, you get into telling your stories, you don't hear the DM when he's trying to get us back on track. And a simple Dave, and I point to the DM, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, fine. And eventually, you kind of figured it out,
No, I still need to be yelled at quite a bit. Like you said before, some people don't want to bring it up because they're afraid of confrontation.
Presumably afraid of confrontation, afraid of offending that person.
It can be uncomfortable. If they're a stranger, you don't want to yell at them.
And I mean, there's also basic hygiene. It's kind of like con rules. If you go to a con and everybody seems to smell right, you're probably the smelly guy. Just have a shower or something before the game, because I've encountered that as well, and it's incredibly unfortunate when it happens, when a person has everything going for them except their personal hygiene. When they're a great role player, they like contributing to things, but they really need to just grab some deodorant and go to town.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's glandular, but more often than not, it's just somebody isn't aware of it, that it's a problem.
Yeah, or if you've been smoking certain substances that will cover you in stank, and it's not your stank necessarily, but you walk in this haze of smoke, as if you've been, cooking with some herb, if you will, and you might shock some more conservative people at the table, or overpower them. If the guy sitting next to you gets a contact high because he's sitting next to you, there's something wrong going on at that table. I won't mention any names at this point about who that might be. I'm not looking at you because it's you. I'm looking at you because you know who it is.
Oh, yeah.
and yeah, like you said, also the shower time. I have encountered that before as well. So that's not cool either.
Actually, that's an interesting. The moocher I mentioned before would also do that. So I guess I know where his money was going. Unfortunately,
yeah. absolutely.
Yeah, it was funny when my DM learned. He wasn't upset that the guy was cooking with herbs. He was actually more upset that he hadn't offered to share.
Yeah.
This is the moochiest moocher ever. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
Off that tangent, back to your sub tangent.
Oh yeah, just about confrontational.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm extremely confrontational.
Well, people have to be confrontational with you to actually get you to kind of
Yes,
pay attention.
they do.
That's just your personality.
It is.
Right.
But I mean, as a GM, I'll yell at people. As another player, I'll yell at people too. You know, like our friend, our mutual friend who had the that stank cloud surrounding him. You know, I yelled at him right there. As soon as he walked by me, I yelled at him because I could smell it. So you know, I'm very confrontational. It's not a problem for me. But like you said, in order to actually get me to shut up, sometimes you do have to yell at me.
Yeah.
And that's just the way I talk. Like I'm not offended. Like that's fine. That's good that you yelled at me.
But for groups of people who are, you know, don't mention things like that, don't talk about it, it can be very hard to bring that sort of thing up, which is unfortunate because if everybody has to suffer because nobody wants to bring it up, well, that's not really a way to play a game or to live, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just say something. You don't need to be rude or crude about it. You can just be like, listen, man, we've been talking, you know, make it a group decision or whatever. Stop mooching, have a shower, stop talking over the DM. Get a squirt bottle and start spraying them whenever they do it, which doesn't really work for a lot of things, but if they keep talking over the DM, that'll probably work.
It's probably a bad idea.
It probably is, yes. It's a good way of offending people. But if they keep doing it...
One guilty offender at our table has been Aaron in talking over people. And for Aaron, it usually happens if he's bored with the game or what's going on in the game.
Or exceptionally tired.
So, if he's just really tired. But often, if you see your players aren't paying attention, if they are talking on tangents, one way to bring it up to them, you know, after the game is like, are you guys bored at the game? Like,
That is one of my
can I add more combat? Can I add more role playing? You know, what is boring about the game?
See what their expectations are. Yeah. See what they want. See what sort of compromise you can make, and make the game fun again for them. If they just go, no, that's fine. It's great fun. I'm having enormous fun.
Yeah.
Then tell them they don't look like it.
Yeah. I mean, and with Aaron, in fact, you know, I did talk to him about it too, and I was like, Aaron, you're talking over me a lot. You know, I mean, I just yell at him, but I'm like, Aaron, I've been yelling at you a lot. Like, are you like bored in the game? And he's like, well, yeah, I like combat and killing things, and there's a lot of politics and role playing, and I don't like that. It's boring to me. And I'm like, I see. Yes. Perhaps you should leave the game. And you know, not to be rude to Aaron. I like Aaron. I enjoy him at the game, but if he's not having fun, he should leave. And if he's disrupting other people's fun, he should also probably leave, right? So, you know, and sometimes you can part ways amicably, and you don't have a problem. So it can be a symptom. The poor etiquette can be a symptom of a bigger problem that you can address as well.
Mm.
I'm trying to think if I've ever seen any other examples of bad table etiquette. One thing for me is if people are talking about a tangent or if they're just running their own scene, I don't really mind continuing a separate scene. But sometimes I'll be talking to the GM and someone else over here is saying something. And I'll say something like, you know, I take my armor off because we're supposed to be stealthy, and you know, I leave my 10-foot spear behind because we're supposed to be stealthy, and then I proceed with them down the corridor stealthily, and you know, the GM hopefully heard me and realized what's going on, but then as we're going down, and you know, one of the barbarian in the group rushes into a guard patrol, blows our cover, and combat breaks out, and I have no armor, and my primary weapon, I don't have that either. And so I was like, this is supposed to be stealth mission, guys. Like, I left my armor and weapon behind. It was like, you left your armor and weapon behind? And I'm like, yeah, because you said it was a stealth mission. I clearly described taking it off and laying it behind, thinking I would never see it again because it's an heirloom from my father. It was a dramatic scene. And we're like, oh, we were talking about Magic the Gathering. I must have missed that while we were talking about Magic the Gathering. I love Magic the Gathering. So that can cause problems, and it can compound too. In that case, the GM basically retconned that, and I'm like, no, I hate retcons, and I wouldn't have done that. Like, this is legit how it would have gone down anyway. And he's like, no, you have your armor and spear. They're just with me now. And I'm just like, that doesn't make any sense. But I'm not going to argue with you anymore because we're wasting time. And I just want to get... I had basically quit already in my mind. I was just like, I just want this to be over, so I'm just going to stop. This is like reason 89 out of 1,000 that I quit this game. So, but it was one little thing that happened because of the table etiquette. They were talking about Magic the Gathering, and they missed vital details going on.
Yeah, well, it's that sort of thing, which is why table etiquette is so very important.
Yeah.
At least more immediately for the role playing and so on. Don't talk over people. Like, pay attention to your surroundings and give people the opportunity to say their bit. You can have a dramatic moment with someone if you're talking together and you override what they're saying because you're in the heat of the moment and you're angry. But if they're discussing sort of what they found out with the DM, like, what did my knowledge check tell me? And then you ask the DM, hey, DM, can I cast Magic Missile into the darkness? Or whatever nonsense. Just don't do that. No. Pay attention. And, like, I've brought it up with people, and some folks just aren't aware that they're interrupting anyone. They're completely oblivious.
Yeah.
And I don't understand how. Because the DM is turned away from them, talking to somebody else, having a conversation, and they almost have to physically pull the DM to them to say their inane comment. And like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't know.
Another one is phones. Get on your phone. I think one time we were having the game, and Mike Chartrand started watching TV on his phone.
Yeah, I did. You forgot
He's watching TV, and there's like the sound effects and the music, and everybody else is role playing. And we just, like, stop, and we all, like, turn over and look at him, and he's like, and he's, like, watching fucking TV, and we're like, Mike, what are you doing over there?
Yeah, I remember that. He still does that.
I'm sure that he does. That's one reason, one of many, that I don't game with Mike Chartrand anymore.
Yeah. His reasoning is that he's not there, he's not hearing it, but it got to the point where he's doing it all the time. It's a pretty key sign of boredom.
I mean, it's one thing if you're on your phone and it's quiet and your character isn't there, and you're not disrupting them, because he's a lone wolf, so he wasn't there. The character wasn't there, so that's fine if you're on your phone. But for that instance, you shouldn't have sound effects distracting people.
Yeah, it's like a.
No, and you shouldn't be on your phone when your character is supposed to be in the game.
Oh my god!
You miss stuff.
What happened last round? Like, I just tuned out guys with my phone, and I have no idea. So if you could just give me a bit of a play-by-play about what all of you did, and what the enemies did,
everything,
and where we are on the grid, if you're not playing with a map.
And I'll be like, as a GM, I'm like, your character's dazed, apparently, and moving on, and we can move on. And I'm like, maybe you should pay attention to what happens this time so you can not be dazed next round, because you're clearly dazed. You have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, that's not a bad way to go about it. It's pretty mechanical, and it does bother me a great deal. Because, as I've said before, investment in characters in the situation is very important.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just want to kill some kobolds or whatever, but you still need to pay attention to what's happening in combat. Even if you're only there for the role-playing, or vice versa, it's respectful,
So I have a question about table etiquette. Because one thing that bothers me is when someone's not ready for their turn. Like, it comes around and they were paying attention, but they have no idea what they're going to do. And they have to be like, let me think for a minute. Oh, I could do this, or oh, what's this spell DC? And I hold up the whole game.
My God.
Is that part of etiquette? Because
It
I
definitely is.
probably would.
It definitely is. Basically, it affects the whole group. It consumes a great deal of time, and I know at times I've actually been very bad for that.
Oh yeah.
Because I build these terrible convoluted characters, or I have a bunch of
Good
minions to
characters,
manage.
just convoluted.
Onions.
Yes.
Onions with
Delicious
layers
onions.
and layers. Anyway, that is definitely tied within it, and now. I've seen a few ways of trying to deal with that.
Okay.
One was timing the players, and if you didn't go past the time, you got bonus XP or some little reward or whatever.
Yeah.
The problem is some characters are legitimately so convoluted, you can't. It does take time to roll the dice, to count the dice, to whatever side effects and other bullshit you have attached to it.
But for me, it could take me quite a while to describe what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if we're in combat, I need to describe what move I use.
But it doesn't take you 5 minutes.
Not usually, but it could.
Mhm. Well, I don't even. I mean, your descriptions, even your lengthiest in combat, take at most a minute, and that's for setting the scene, setting up what they're doing, what you're doing, and the results of what happens. 5 minutes is a fair bit of time when you have 4 or 5 or 6 people staring at you.
Yeah,
Really.
I guess so. But if I'm talking, I don't care if they're just
Oh, that's
staring
true.
at
Yeah.
me.
That's
So yeah, I guess you could time them. I use the same method though, where what are you doing? He's like, and I'm like, and moving on. And
You're dazed.
and I don't usually daze them. I usually just shift them back in initiative order, so
Let
someone
them-
else can go. And then I come back to them like, are you ready yet? And he's like, no. And I'm like, and on to the next player. But I keep coming back to them. They haven't lost a turn.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's fair. Some
not just
less
flow. I just
forgiving DMs
I
will
just
just
want
let
to
them.
keep the flow really, really fast.
Well, that's important because I have also dealt with indecisive players, and one player in particular was atrocious for it because she played a wizard, and wizards have an enormous amount of choice. This was 4th edition. You have all sorts of powers, and she's like,
Depends on your wizard.
well, and she debate and weigh the options and try and figure out what the most ideal tool for that situation was, and then she used your at-will power, which is it's basically like Ray of Frost.
Yeah.
You take 1d6 damage, it's like level 5 or 6, right? She has dailies and counter powers, these really buff spells. She ignores them, she uses Ray of Frost. Or Cloud of Daggers, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was terrible. It was terrible. And she wasted so much time. Everybody was gnashing their teeth and like, oh, come on, please.
And there was darkness
Silence.
and the gnashing of teeth.
Yeah. No, silence, though, because nobody there was polite enough, or everyone was too polite to really groan at her. But the DM did talk to her and be like, listen, oh no, the character died, and her god talked to her and like, you're a terrible wizard. Here's why. Here's how you improve. And she got a little better.
That's good. That reminds me of that sprite that I built, because he'd intentionally use like his really, really weak spells, to the point where everyone thought he was just really weak. And then when we actually needed a high level spell, they didn't even think to ask me, and I just busted out. I'm just like, limited wish, boom, and they're like, you can cast limited wish, and I can cast it 3 times a day, and they're like, what? How did you do that? And I'm like, I just never needed to cast it before. But that might come back to like the big reveal. I did a video on reveal. Big reveals, and maybe even secret character creation.
But I mean, you had that up your sleeve. You were ready for it, right?
Yeah.
For when that sort of chance opportunity occurred. And part of that is also knowing your character, knowing the system. Yeah. System mastery is something some people will mention, and it's not.
We got a cat. We got a cat. A random encounter, son. We got a random encounter.
And you really don't need to know everything about the system.
I gained 1 XP.
You just need to know about your character, what your character can do, and maybe what your character can do with the other players. Because if you get the fastball special, whatever going on, that's awesome. I love that.
The Doomsday device.
Doomsday device. But you really have to be in the know. Just figure it out, puzzle it out, talk to your DM, write notes. I've had players who have a big sheet, like 3 times longer than their character sheet. I know I do this sometimes too for my more convoluted characters, about what I can do with other and the time it takes, and and I'll just be like, yep, I do this and this and this. Bam, done. Right. Actually, my character sheet for the Seven Sands campaign was
it was a book.
Was yay thick. Actually, I named it too. It was the Grimoire of Larimore. And I had all my spells and all my character abilities and all that shenanigans all printed out and ready. I still have it, actually. But it was a small novella.
Mighty tome.
Yeah. And I knew.
I gotta start using that as a in-game text. The Grimoire of the Larimore.
No.
Yeah.
Travels through the dimension.
Yeah. The Quentinonicon.
Oh no! That's so much better.
That's so much better.
And worse at the time. Worse at the same time. The Quentinonicon.
Anything else on etiquette at the table?
Don't be afraid to bring it up. Just make them aware of it and keep reminding them until they change. Don't assume that they'll change automatically because people are dumb or stubborn or just not aware. And it can take time and effort. Definitely be self-aware as well. Ask yourself, am I that guy? And if the answer is, very evidently no, like just resounding, just bam, no, I'm not that guy, look deeper. Look deeper. Look inside yourself and ask questions. Like ask, do I do anything that irritates the shit out of you guys? Like, just let me know. Lay it on me, alright? I know I've done this at times, too, with mixed results. Because, I don't know, in my opinion, it promotes sort of group cohesion. If you don't have people doing the shit that irritates everyone at the table, whether they take too long, they mooch, whether this, that, or the other thing, be introspective and not afraid to raise your voice.
Excellent. So that is the Tao of Josh. And you can tune in to more Tao of Josh right here on YouTube. So subscribe. Subscribe and catch the next video.